Hey guys, this is Will at Third and Long. Hit that like button and subscribe. Today, what we're going to be breaking down is the 2023 Michigan Wolverines schedule. They'll be having their kickoff this Saturday, playing East Carolina Pirates, but we're going to look at every single game, see which games they're going to win, see which games they're going to lose, and see what their final season predictions will be. Michigan is one of the most successful college football teams of the last couple of years. Back-to-back playoff runs. Harbaugh is one of the hottest coaches in the country right now. He's really turned things around since his first couple seasons in Ann Arbor. So last year they finished the regular season and the championship 13-0. They went to the playoffs. It was a shootout with TCU. I don't know how that happened because they have a great defense, but it was a shootout. They lost it, but Blake Corum was out. But obviously, they are hot right now. They've, like I said, back-to-back playoff runs. Michigan could not be doing any better right now, given the circumstances. This year, they have 85% of their production coming back. J.J. McCarthy, still at quarterback. A lot of Heisman buzz. I've heard even people talking about him getting drafted in the first round. So, quarterback, the most important position, is solidified. Strong foundation. Running back, they have Blake Corum. They have Edwards. Probably the deepest and best running back room in the entire country. Last year, them combined together, they ran for 2,455 yards and 25 touchdowns. And that's with Corum getting hurt at the end of the year. So this team has a great quarterback, has a great coach, has great defense, has the best running backs in the country. And really, there's no tough games till they get to November this season. So if they have any kinks, there's a lot of time to iron those out. So let's get started because it's a pretty interesting schedule. They start out their first game this Saturday at East Carolina. Now, this is September 2nd. ECU is a pretty legitimate team. So their quarterback is Mason Garcia. He's the highest rated quarterback ever to come to the Pirates. Last year, the team went 8-5. This is a pretty good passing team. Obviously, there's a massive talent gap when you look at the two teams. Michigan, Harbaugh's out the first 3 games. So he has a self-suspension, so he's out the first 3 games. Michigan has a lot of players out. Cornerback Walker's out. Safeties Moore and Page, both out. Wide receivers Morris and Leary, they're both out. Harbaugh's out. The offensive coordinator, Moore, he's out also because he's suspended 1 game through the improper benefits. So coaches are out, players are out. It's not going to matter. This game will not be close. It's the quarterback coach. His name's, Kirk Campbell. He's the one that's going to be calling offensive plays this game. It's not going to matter. They're going to run the ball down the Pirates' throat. The Pirates have a horrible defense, and their line is awful. So J.J. McCarthy, who is supposedly questionable, if he doesn't play for some reason, it's not going to matter. They're going to blow them out. I'm thinking it might be close for about the first 3 or 4 minutes. That's about it. Michigan will win this one. I'm going to project it out about 41-10. So a very strong showing first game. Next game, September 9th, UNLV Rebels. So the Las Vegas Rebels coming into Ann Arbor. Usually week 1 to week 2 shows the biggest improvement for any team. So Michigan's just going to get sharper. Harbaugh's still out. Supposedly they will be splitting coaching duties. First half, one guy will coach it. Second half, the next guy will coach it. They'll be alternating between the coordinators, quarterback coaches, position coaches. But Barry Odom is the new coach at UNLV, and UNLV is a complete disaster. It's a dumpster fire. The team was horrible the last couple of years. It's a complete rebuild. So basically what that means is it's going to be a complete blowout. The Rebels are in complete trouble. Their secondary is awful, but they're going to get torched through the air and on the ground this game. So I think Michigan completely runs away with the game. They'll win 60-6. So not a shutout, but a butt whooping. Next game, September 16th. Bowling Green comes into Ann Arbor now. Bowling Green probably has the worst offensive line in the country. So I think this is going to be Michigan's shutout game. They're going to shut Bowling Green out. They have one of the worst offensive lines in the country, and they have one of the worst defenses in the country. I think last year they were ranked 130th. So that's not going to spell well. So I'm thinking they get completely shut out, 54-0. And now Harbaugh's coming back. Week 4, Michigan's now 3-0. They have Rutgers. Never overlook Rutgers. Greg Schiano, great coach. His team is always tough. They always run the ball well. But Harbaugh's back. So the team's going to be pumped up. They're going to be angry. And they have a chip on their shoulder due to the suspension. And they have something to prove. Now, when Michigan played Rutgers back in 2020, that went into overtime. When they played in 2021, that was a really close game. But Michigan's completely turned the corner since then, and they are a hot team basically from 2021 on. So I think it's going to be a butt whooping, basically. Michigan's going to win 51-13. But I think that first quarter might be kind of close, and people will be wondering kind of what's going on here. But Michigan's going to pull away with it, and they will win 51-13 in the end. So they're now 4-0. Next game, week 5, at Nebraska. Matt Rule. If anyone got to see his game Thursday night, I would say that team was ahead of schedule. Complete roster change, complete scheme change since they got rid of Scott Frost. But Matt Rule, great coach, and their defense played really well versus Minnesota. Jeff Sims is a great running back. They have a good defense. Matt Rule's team will always have a good defense. However, with that being said, his style of play is going to be fullbacks, slow, running it down people's throat, very run-heavy offense. I do not think that plays well playing versus Michigan. Michigan has one of the best defensive lines in the country. They had the best defense in the country last year. It's just as good this year, if not better. I don't think you're going to run it down their throat. I just do not see that happening. I think you have to be a finesse and a high-powered offense like a Trojans to be able to score points on Michigan. So I think that plays directly into their hands. It'll be kind of a slug-it-out game, but I think the game will be won in the trenches. Michigan will win 31-9. Week 6 at Minnesota, the Gophers. This is October 7th. PJ Flex teams are always competitive. They always have a great defense. They're always kind of a fringe top 25 team. Sometimes they make those, 21-25. Sometimes they're just outside of it. Fact is, they're always competitive. Never take them for granted. The last 2 years, they finished both years 9-4. So really good teams in a very difficult conference. Last year, Minnesota had the number 3 overall defense. Well, the number 3 scoring defense. They gave up 14.2 points per game. What an excellent team this is. However, just like Nebraska, I think their game style on offense plays directly into Michigan's hands. They're going to want to run the ball. They had a great win versus Nebraska this Thursday. That is not going to play out versus Michigan. I think, like I said, their style of play plays perfectly into Michigan's hands. They cannot stretch the field, and you're not going to run it on Michigan successfully. You have to be a vertical team, to me, to be able to even have a chance to score on Michigan. So I think Michigan wins 33-16. Week 7, Indiana, October 14th. There's really not much to say here. The Hoosiers are an awful team. They started out hot back in 2020. I think that was the year when Tom Allen had a pretty decent team that year, and it's just been a hot mess since then, and they seem to be getting worse every single year. So I just don't think this game is going to be close. Indiana has a lot of transfers. They have transfers at quarterback, running back. None of it's going to matter. It's going to be a blowout. I'm going to say about 49-10. Next game, at Michigan State, October 21st. How far Mel Tucker's Spartans have fallen. They were so hot. What was that, 2020 or 2021, when they were in the top 10? Michigan State would really love to get that contract back, but it's a massive buyout. Mel Tucker, it's just outside of Ohio State. This is the one game that Michigan cannot afford to lose. 1, because it's a rivalry game. 2, it's not a competitive rivalry because Michigan State's a very bad team. But in the first couple of years that Harbaugh was at Michigan, this was his Achilles heel. He could not beat them. That is not the case since then, though. So it is a rivalry. You do not want to overlook it. You do not want to take it for granted. Both teams will be competitive. Last year, Michigan State players were jumping Michigan players in the hallways, which is ridiculous. But obviously, people get pumped up for this game. Do not take it for granted. With that being said, Michigan has the talent advantage everywhere. Coach, position coaches, scheme coaches, quarterback, running back, D-line, O-line. I think it's close at halftime. And then Michigan beats the brakes off of them second half. They win 34-20. Then they have their bye week. They get to rest. Next week, November 4th, Purdue. Purdue's kind of an interesting team because they've had a complete change. So Brom's gone. They're a very interesting team. So Graham Harrell is now the offensive coordinator. He's going to be running the air raid at Purdue. Ryan Walters, great defensive coordinator from Illinois. He's now the head coach. The team will have a great, disciplined defense. Hudson Card transferred from Texas. He's now the quarterback there. So a lot of moving pieces, a lot of different position players, completely different coaching staff. We don't know what to expect from Purdue yet. But I think they will be disciplined and they will be a skilled team, but not skilled enough to compete with Michigan right now. But I think they'll be able to keep the score close. I'm thinking, don't overlook them, but Michigan will win 38-20. So they're now 9-0. Next, week 10 at Penn State, November 11th. This is a really tough game here. Penn State's going to be riding high at this point. Penn State's a very talented team. I kind of think of them as like a Michigan mini-me because they're kind of built the same way. You have Drew Aller there at quarterback. He's a 5-star. You have James Franklin as the coach. You have Manny Diaz, who's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. And Penn State's defense is loaded. Great running back room. They have Nick Singleton. They have Creighton Allen. They have a great offensive line. They have a great defensive line. They get a lot of sacks. They get a lot of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. I think it's a nail biter. Penn State, a lot of people are thinking this is their year. This is their best shot at possibly winning the Big Ten East. I think it's a nail biter, but they're not yet quite ready to upset Michigan. To me, this is Michigan's best team in the last 20 years. So Michigan wins it, but they win it close. I think they win 31-27, and they're now 10-0. Week 11 at Maryland, November 18th. Coach Loxley, pretty good coach. Maryland, for what they are, they're very competitive. They won 8 games last year. They're always kind of a 8-4, 7-5 team. They got, I can never say the last name, Tagliova, to his little brother. He's there at quarterback. Seems like he's been there for 10 years, but he's probably a senior right now. They have Roman Hembley at running back. He had 1,200 yards last year. So Dan Enos was the offensive coordinator. To me, he's a horrible coach, but he's gone. He went to Arkansas. Now the new offensive coordinator is Josh Gaddis, who I think is an even worse offensive coordinator than Dan Enos. He's the one that just got canned from Miami, was at Michigan, so Michigan fans will know him well, and they don't care for him. So Loxley just basically hires old Alabama cast-offs, but Maryland's always a good team. They went, like I said, they went 8-5 last year. I do not see it. This will not be competitive. The score won't look as bad as the beatdown will be, but I think Michigan wins 45-20. Final game. This is basically the game that everyone actually cares about. So this is the big one. Ohio State, November 25th, getting close to Thanksgiving, in Ann Arbor. To me, both teams will be undefeated at this point, just like they are every single year. Both 11-0, both undefeated, both in the top 4, both playing for a chance to get into the playoff. Michigan has a 2-year win streak here. Corum, best running back in college football. Edwards is not far behind him. Michigan just has, to me, too much talent coming back. This team should be better than it was last year, and it was a playoff team last year. They should have beat TCU. They should have played Georgia. So, like I said, this is Michigan's best team in the last 20 years. But Ohio State, to me, will be better than they were last year. Yes, they lost Stroud, but Ryan Day is feeling the heat. Kyle McCord is the starting quarterback. They said it this week. He's pro style. Backup Devin Brown. You will see both of them this year. So no matter what happens, one of them will be playing. They're both 5 stars. But to me, they're not going to rely on the quarterback as they did in the last couple of years. This team will be running the ball better, and Ohio State's defense will be a lot better this year. Jim Knowles is back at defensive coordinator. To me, he will have a top 20 defense this year. They will be much improved on defense. Ryan Day is not going to rest the game on his quarterback's shoulders, basically what he's been doing every single game the last 2 to 3 years. He will actually run the ball this year. They will actually try to control the clock, and they will use their defense. Their skilled position players are some of the best in the game. They have the deepest wide receiver core every single year. They have Marvin Harrison Jr., they have Egbuka, they have Fleming, wide receiver loaded. Some people are saying Harrison Jr. is the best wide receiver prospect since Michael Crabtree. Those of you who don't remember him when he was at Texas Tech, he was a perfect prototype of a wideout. Harrison Jr. is a beast. It gets no better than that. The running backs is not far off. They have Trevin Henderson, loaded team. But both teams are loaded. Michigan beat the brakes off of the Buckeyes last year. I do not think that's going to happen this year. So what am I calling? I think Michigan is going to win it. I think they're going to win it 38-31, very close game. I think they'll be up 2 touchdowns, and then Ohio State will score a touchdown, and they'll have the ball at the end, but they won't be able to punch it in. They won't be able to score, and then Michigan will get the ball back with like 40 seconds left and just run one play, and that'll end the game. But I think it's going to be a close game. Ohio State will be a lot better, but Michigan will also be a lot better. It just won't be a blowout this year. Ryan Day is going to be feeling the heat, and then we'll see what happens in the Big Ten Championship. So yes, I have Michigan going 12-0 again. Now, I'm not a Michigan homer. I'm not personally a Michigan fan. I'm just trying to call things the way that I see things. I do not see any team in the Big Ten beating the Wolverines this year. Ohio State could potentially do it, and yes, they could both, again, get in the playoffs. I mean, they could meet in the playoffs, technically, possibly. But I think Michigan's going to beat him again. What's going to happen to Ryan Day? To me, that's the big story. Yeah, he can keep running the table, but if he keeps losing to Harbaugh, like, people are going to be calling for his job. People are going to want Urban Meyer to come back, basically. But anyways, that's my cap of the Michigan regular season. From there, they'll be off to the Big Ten Championship. You know, they might face Iowa, Wisconsin, I don't know. They'll face someone from the West, and they'll beat them, and they'll get in the playoffs. And if there was a year for Michigan to win the national championship, to me, it is this year, especially since J.J. McCarthy will be leaving after this year to probably get drafted in the first round. Anyways, this is Will at Third and Long. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks.